opening animation with a blurry view. Upon opening my eyes, the first thing I felt was cold-piercing, bone-deep cold that made my whole body shiver. It felt as if I were lying naked on ice. There was a noise in my head, like hundreds of tones merging into one endless hum. The pressure was unbearable, and every heartbeat pulsed through my temples like electric shocks. Just a bit more and my head would burst. My body was a chorus of pain, dull aching pain. The sharpest stab was in my ribs, so intense it took my breath away. My fingers wouldn't respond. Even the slightest movement was a struggle. The space around me was blurred, and in front of my eyes I could barely make out the outline of a ceiling. With a faintly flickering lamp, I didn't move. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it echoing in my ears. "Damn it," I muttered. I tried to sit up. Slowly, I pressed my hands against the floor and strained to lift myself, and then the world started to spin. I was on a swing that was about to throw me off. My vision warped and tilted, and the floor beneath my feet turned soft. A wave of nausea surged through me. I pressed my hands to my mouth and focused on breathing deeply, slowly. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. It's getting better. The nausea is fading. I took a step and nearly collapsed. My knees trembled and my legs tangled beneath me. I shut my eyes and stood still, just breathing. "I think I'm okay," I whispered, slowly opening my eyes. How did I get here? What is this place? Looking around, I realized. A dressing room? Seriously? I glanced around the room. It was spotless, not a speck of dust, as if someone had just finished cleaning. The air was heavy with the stifling scent of hairspray, way too much. It was almost hard to breathe. The makeup table was buried under cosmetics, open greasy pink palettes, scattered eyeshadow, brushes with hair stuck in them, bottles of setting spray, dried up mascara tubes, lipsticks without caps. Everything felt alive, real, and a bit worn. And how many acts are left? In the corner, a vinyl record player played softly. Wait, a melody I knew. My favorite one! I hadn't heard it in years. Weird, I said aloud, surprised. This tune isn't popular. Almost no one knows it. I kept wandering slowly around the room, not in a hurry, touching things as if testing whether what I saw was truly real. I ran my finger across an eyeshadow tray, leaving behind a streak of bright pink on my skin, then picked up a dry lipstick, examining it carefully, as if it might be something more than just lipstick. Under the table, on a shelf, there were notes and scraps of printed text, yellow clippings from newspapers, and folded when the ink had faded so badly I couldn't read it. Scattered on the floor were scripts, some torn, others handwritten with tiny margin notes. Pause, don't make eye contact, cry. What the hell is this? I exclaimed in surprise. I lifted my eyes from the floor and looked into the mirror. There was my own bewildered reflection. My face looked pale, with dark circles under my eyes. I could barely recognize myself. On the wall beside the dressing table hung a photograph of a man in a theatrical costume, his face completely erased. What the hell is this? I repeated, louder this time. Below the photo, a shelf crammed with photo albums. I pulled them out one by one, different plays, different costumes, but every single photo had one thing in common: the people in them had no faces. This feels like some sick joke. The ceiling lamp flickered again. Honestly, I was scared, but what scared me even more was stepping outside that door without knowing what was waiting behind it. I stood there for a while, hesitant, pressed my ear against the wood trying to hear something, anything, but there was nothing. I finally worked up the courage to open the door. A long, shadowy corridor stretched out before me. At the very end, a faint, flickering light leaking through a half-open door. From beyond it came a quiet sound, a whisper, a hushed conversation. I couldn't tell, but I started walking toward it. One step, then another, slow, cautious, like tiptoeing through a minefield. Every footstep felt deafening. I breathed as quietly as I could. Even swallowing felt risky. My entire body was tense, drawn tight like a wire. The walls on either side were lined with old photographs and theater posters, portraits of actors, every one of them familiar faces I'd seen before, in films and plays. And they were all looking at me. Their eyes followed my every move. Some smiled, some were neutral, some looked sad. One or two seemed to be warning me. I was terrified. Red carpets lined the floor, worn down by countless footsteps over the years. It was hard to keep walking. My legs were like jelly. My heart was thudding in my ears. My palms were sweaty, trembling. The closer I got to the light, the slower I moved, as if dragging the moment out, not ready for whatever was waiting ahead. I need to get out of here, I muttered under my breath. I really don't like this place. Where's the exit? I whispered, glancing around. As I approached the door, I froze. In front of me a stage, a real stage in a grand theater. Majestic, empty, shrouded in semi-darkness, a spotlight beamed down directly onto the center of the stage, as if inviting me to step into that very spot. The light was so bright it overshadowed everything around it. I squinted, trying to make out something in the hall, but saw nothing. Is anyone there? I called out, and my own voice sounded frightened and far too loud, echoing across the entire auditorium. But I didn't hear a single reply. In that moment, the silence felt louder than any scream. I stepped onto the stage, and the wooden floor creaked slightly under my weight. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure the whole theater could hear it if anyone was there. The air was filled with a strange, dry dust, glimmering in the spotlight like tiny ghosts. The stage boards were old and worn. It felt like great plays were performed here every day, though right now, the place was completely empty. I had barely taken a few steps when the spotlight, almost sensing my fear, betrayed me and turned off. But not for long. Even though it felt like an eternity of total darkness, then it suddenly switched on again, but this time, the beam fell squarely on me, almost mockingly. I instinctively raised my hands to shield my face, trying to cover myself. Everything around me disappeared, the auditorium, the curtains, even the floor, it all dissolved into a blinding white void. Panic crept in. My eyes hadn't adjusted to such brightness, and I just stood there frozen, blind in the light like a target, or maybe I was the target? Damn it! What the hell is going on here? Is this some kind of joke? How did it get here? I shouted nervously. I know someone's here. Say something. From behind the curtains, dull footsteps echoed across the wooden floor. Someone was approaching. I still couldn't see who it was. My eyes hadn't adjusted to the bright light. Finally, squinting, I made out the silhouettes of two figures, a boy and a girl, it seemed. The closer they came, the clearer they became. They wore costumes that didn't belong to our time. He was in a tuxedo, she in a modest vintage dress. I didn't wait for them to speak first. I started the conversation myself. Who are you, and why am I here? I shouted, my voice shaky. I'm Mari, and this is my brother, Kyan. What is this strange place, and how did I end up here? Haven't you figured it out yet? This is a theater, he answered, irritated. Kyan, can't you see he's confused? Don't start. You're in a theater, and your role here is to finish the play. What? What play? What are you talking about? How do we get out of here? I'm not playing your games. I don't have time for this. Oh no, my friend. Time is the one thing you do have. You'll be able to leave, but only after you've played your parts. If I'm an actor, then who am I supposed to play? Where's my script? Where's the director? Improvise, he replied, dripping with sarcasm. I want to see the director. Who else can I talk to besides you? You're both the director and the actor, and the script, it's all in your head. And if you want to talk, try talking to yourself, he added with a slight grin. The spotlight that had been shining on me suddenly shut off. Darkness again, that damn darkness, and then light. It flicked on again, but this time it shone on a chair right beside me. I had no idea where it came from, but I knew instantly it was meant for me. Is this the beginning of my play? What am I supposed to do with this chair? I approached and sat down. The wings slowly began to part, and what I saw. It seemed like my consciousness wanted to leave me for a few seconds, but I pulled myself together and regained control. Oh God, what is this? I whispered. Is this a joke? Please tell me this is a joke, I shouted, almost fainting again. The hall was packed to the brim. Countless faceless silhouettes sat silently, as if waiting just for me. And though none of them had faces, I could clearly feel their gazes upon me. They pierced through me, burned me, made my heart squeeze in my chest. These were not looks in the usual sense. These people weren't watching me with their eyes. They observed from the very depths of their faceless beings. I was under their crosshairs. There was nowhere to run. Everything felt strange, faceless spectators, and the overwhelming sense of reality. My play began quickly, as if out of nowhere. The scenery appeared before me, scenery so real it was terrifying. Evening, kitchen. I'm sitting in a chair in the corner by the table. This woman, probably my mother, is putting food on my plate. It smells delicious. She tries to talk to me and sometimes even jokes. But I can see she's very tired and barely standing on her feet. I hear someone quietly unlocking the door and entering the apartment as if trying not to be heard. You're late again. I've been alone all day, and you didn't even call. She starts speaking tiredly, but loud enough to be heard in the hallway. I'm working so you can have everything you want. You think it's easy for me? He enters the kitchen. Hey kid, he says gently to me, stroking my hair. You think it's easy for me? She shouted. Grabbing a cup, she hurled it against the wall. It shattered into 1,000 tiny pieces. We don't need your money, don't you understand? We need you. I'm sick of this, nothing but complaints. How am I supposed to live if I don't work? I can't split myself in two. I work, I get tired, I'm trying my best for you. You just whine, and you want endless help. Yes, I want help, I want support. I'm alone at home all day. The child wants attention. There's cleaning, cooking, laundry. It's all on me. How much longer? I've had enough. I'm leaving. I'm fed up with your constant reproaches. Fine, then leave. You're useless anyway. For some reason, the words burst out of me, and I shouted, Dad, don't go. He didn't even look at me. He gloomily ran around the apartment gathering his things. Meanwhile, the woman sat in the kitchen crying. I kept sitting in the chair. I was just a child, quiet and unnoticed, powerless to intervene. Listening to their quarrel, I felt helplessness and sadness growing inside me. But at some point, I realized I can't change their fights. I can't change them or their emotions. I'm just a child, and it's not my fault. The light softened and gradually almost went out. The stage fell silent. The faceless hall applauded. The curtains began to close. I was still sitting in a chair, and the kitchen vanished, along with everything that had happened here. I don't understand what this is or how it's even possible. I have a million questions, but no answers at all. I got up from the chair and headed down the corridor. For some reason, the fatigue was so strong I could barely move my legs. I just sat down on the floor, leaned against the wall, and sat there thinking about this play, wondering what it was all for. Suddenly, like lightning, spotlights began to blaze across the stage, lighting up everything around. Before me was a stranger's play. There were strangers acting, not me, not Mari, not Kyan. One of the actors was a young man holding a blue jacket in his hands. He gripped it like something precious. Fear and confusion were in his eyes. A woman approached him, beautiful, wearing a dress and heels. She spoke quietly, almost whispering. The words didn't reach me, but I saw her lips trembling. They argued long and passionately. Tears ran down the woman's cheeks. Her hands flew up in despair. She waved them as if trying to explain something or seek explanations from her partner. He was shouting too. I couldn't hear what, but I understood from his gestures. He tried to touch her, but she just pushed his hand away. Standing up, I stepped closer to the stage. Excuse me for interrupting your play, but I want to ask something. Please listen, it's urgent. Hey, can you hear me? I'm here, I shouted with all my might to them on the stage. Please help me. How do I get out of here? You must know where the exit is, I said, falling to my knees in despair. They don't hear me. No matter how much I shout, it's all in vain. No looks, no reaction, as if I'm a ghost, as if I simply don't exist. I see the stage, I see them, but there's an invisible wall between us I can't pass through. Damn it! What is going on here? And the actors embrace and slowly dissolve into thin air. The hall applauds, and again the lights go out. I hope this is just a projection, because if not, I get wildly scared. But here in the long dark corridor, I saw Mari's silhouette. She looks at me and gestures me to follow her. I stood up. My heart was pounding wildly. From fear, the corridor around me seemed longer and darker than ever before. The ceiling pressed down on me, and the wall seemed to move, but I kept following her. I hoped she would bring clarity to what was happening in this cursed theater. I walked after her into the darkness. Though I'd only known her for a few hours, I was heading toward a place where answers might await me, or perhaps just another performance. Before me were open doors leading into a room. I stepped inside. The room was cluttered with various folders and scripts, all covered in dust. It was clear that few, if anyone, ever came here. The air was heavy, saturated with old paper and dust. I stepped carefully, trying not to disturb the piles of folders stacked one on top of another. I felt they might topple at any moment. On the shelves were names, titles, dates. Some folders were stuck together from moisture, others yellowed as if exposed to sunlight, which couldn't possibly exist here. This place felt like the theater's archive. Mari stood in the farthest corner of the room. Probably didn't want anyone to see us together. I moved closer to her, hoping that right now I would learn everything I wanted to know. My voice faltered, but forcing myself, I managed to speak the words. Tell me, why is this place so strange? Why am I here, and who brought me? Mari didn't answer immediately. She only looked at me long, as if weighing whether I had the right to know, whether I was ready to hear the answer. Then she slowly stepped out of the shadows. Her voice was quiet and restrained. You brought yourself here, Oliver, and you wanted to remember what you tried to forget. What? I don't understand. It seemed to me that I saw pity in her eyes for me, but why? Why pity me? It was as if she knew something that would change me forever. Help me get out! I'm asking you! Suddenly, the silence of the room was broken by a sharp click. Someone switched on the light. A lamp on the ceiling flickered with a dim yellow glow that seemed unable to penetrate the dust on the chandelier. Kyan stood in the doorway. From his expression, I immediately understood he was far from happy to see us here together. His gaze was cold and angry. What are you doing here? This place isn't for you, especially not together. I glanced at Mari, but she no longer looked at me. lowered her eyes and slowly walked toward Kyan. It's just a cluttered, abandoned room. What's so valuable here that we aren't allowed to be? Maybe this dust is the treasure, I replied with a smirk. Maybe it is. There are things here better left untouched. Kyan cast a brief glance at Mari. That look was a warning she had done something wrong. She averted her eyes and headed for the door. You're both hiding something, I can feel it. Give me answers, please! Right now, I want to know everything. I have the right. I'm not a prisoner, understand? Oliver, it's late already. Go to bed. You have a play tomorrow. I'm not going anywhere until I was interrupted by Mari. Oliver, really? It's late. Time to rest. And we'll talk with you later, he said, glaring angrily at Mari. Should I wait long? Get out. Tension hung in the air. Kyan didn't take his eyes off me. He was clearly hiding something from me and didn't want Mari to tell me about it. He looked at me once more, switched off the light, slammed the door, and locked it. I'll be sleeping in the dressing room. I don't care. Do whatever you want. Good night, everyone. Mari left without looking back. Wait for me, Mari. For a few seconds, all I could hear were their footsteps fading down the corridor. Then silence again, heavy silence. I headed to the dressing room. I opened the dressing room door. It greeted me with half darkness and still smelled of makeup and lacquer, which seemed to have soaked into the walls. I settled into an old chair. I was so tired, but sleep wouldn't come. I tossed from side to side. I stared at the door, where light from the corridor slipped through the cracks onto the ceiling like ghosts. I closed my eyes and opened them again. My thoughts wouldn't quiet down. Why are they acting like this? Why does every conversation feel like a riddle? I muttered under my breath. Those two are like guards, either protecting me from something or something from me. Where can I find the answers? Kyan said I had a play waiting for me tomorrow. What does that mean? How many plays do I have to go through before they finally let me out of here? And why are these plays so alive? Why is everything here so strange? I wish someone would help me. As closing. I settled in comfortably, closed my eyes again, and tried to fall asleep. My eyes grew heavy, but inside, my thoughts still wouldn't come. I need to find out what they're hiding, was the last thought before sleep took me. Eyes opening. I opened my eyes. The night had passed quickly. I woke up alone because I was very cold during the night. I was also surprised by how I didn't feel hungry at all, and I never saw Mari or Kyan eat even once. Before I could think more about them, Kyan opened the door. Get up, it's time for you to be on stage. Already? Why so soon? You didn't come here to rest. Hurry up. I still don't understand why I ended up here, I muttered to myself. Maybe at least now you'll explain why I'm here. There's no time, hurry up, they're waiting for you. Of course, who'd doubt it? They're waiting for me, but who and why? What difference does it make? I walked quickly through corridors I already knew. Ahead of me, Kyan was running even faster. Before my eyes again, the same scene, the same strange faceless audience would be there. I'll wait for their applause and it will end again, over and over. I stepped onto the stage, the wings slowly opened, it began. The spotlight ripped the scene from darkness. I stood aside, at the very end of the aisle between the rows. Something about the scene was unsettling. As if I had been here before, as if I knew these walls, these wings, this smell of dust and makeup. But no, it was just an illusion, just another play, another stranger's story. But somehow I knew what I had to do without even seeing the script or looking at the others. On stage rehearsal, the actors were bustling about. I saw a young man in a dark suit. His movements and words were painfully familiar. I stepped closer, not understanding what exactly was pulling me forward. "This is my role," the words just burst out of me. Someone from the stage shouted at me, "No, it's not yours. You've been replaced. You didn't show up for rehearsal." Some started calling back and forth, others whispered, someone laughed. "You never showed up on time. What were you hoping for?" "He probably isn't hoping for anything," someone shouted mockingly from the stage. I couldn't stay there any longer. I turned around and slowly trudged toward the exit, trying to think of anything to block out their jeers behind my back. Suddenly, the director's voice cut through my thoughts like a sword. "You would be a good actor if only you were a little more responsible. I'm sorry." I looked at him. There was regret and sadness in his eyes. Before I could say a single word, the audience was already applauding and the curtains began to close. As soon as the scene ended, I quickly ran off to find Mari. I wanted to talk to her again. Maybe this time it would work out. I could see she wanted to help me. She was just afraid of Kyan. I wandered through the long corridors, every corner of this theater already familiar to me. Old posters flickered on the walls, peeling wallpaper, dusty lights that never turn off. My footsteps echoed hollowly, as if the space itself was holding the sound back. For some reason, I was nervous, not like usual, not like before going on stage. There was something else, something anxious. My heart pounded in my chest like a door trying to burst open. My pulse dropped in my temples. My hands were unsteady. I tried to pull myself together, clenching my fingers into fists until the joints ached. "She's around here somewhere. She has to be," I muttered under my breath. I turned another corner. The corridor was short, with only 2 doors, and I heard sounds, muffled voices. I stepped closer, stopped, listened. The words were indistinct, like through water, but I recognized her voice. It was Mari, but she wasn't alone. Suddenly, I heard another familiar voice. She was talking with Kyan. I took a few more steps closer, walking almost on tiptoes. In front of me were half-open doors, faint light seeping through them. I froze. My heart seemed to stop beating. I held my breath. I just wanted to listen a bit longer to find out more. Maybe this time something would finally make sense. "Don't pressure him, Kyan. He needs time to remember on his own," she whispered. "We have to help him, help fix what can still be fixed. He's already made his choice. He jumped. And if that's the case, let him play his role to the end and disappear, like most do. What if he's different, not like the others?" "No one is different. Everyone who comes here ends up the same." I shuddered. A storm of thoughts and memories erupted in my head. Maybe they said more, but I didn't hear it anymore. "Jumped? What are they talking about?" "Damn, what jump?" I whispered to myself, trying to remember something, if I had forgotten. And then fragments broke through my memory like pictures, one after another weighing, wet edge of the roof, cold in my chest, the jump, white light, bright as a spotlight, and then nothing else. My body swayed, but I held on to the wall. "Kyan, there's someone here, quiet." I can't even guess who he answered with irony. "Yes, I heard everything, and now I want answers," I shouted as I burst into the room. "Now it's getting even more interesting," he said, smiling, raising his eyes to me. "You weren't supposed to find out like this. I'm sorry, Oliver, truly." "What? What do you mean?" "It's time for us to go on stage." She grabbed my hand so sharply it even hurt a little. Mari didn't even look me in the eye. She just squeezed my fingers and pulled me along. We ran down through the corridors, past dim lamps flickering on the ceiling, past familiar doors I had touched before without knowing what was behind them. I only heard the dull thud of our footsteps. She didn't stop, not for a moment, and I just ran after her, almost falling around the corners. I felt my heart pounding somewhere in my chest and temples at the same time. Sweat ran down my back. My breathing was broken not from exhaustion but from the tension that grew with every second. She knew everything, yet she delayed telling me until the last moment. Finally, the familiar doors, white and black as night. Murray pushed them open with both hands, and they creaked loudly. Before us was the same stage, lit up but still empty until I stepped onto it. This stage was waiting for me. I looked at Mari. I just opened my mouth to say a word. She shoved me onto the stage and only shouted, "Go!" For a moment, everything froze. The silence around became complete. My ears rang, blurred flashes of light. I felt as if I fell into a dream or a memory. The wings of the stage opened, and everything began again. In front of me was a table, old, oak, and worn. Next to it, a chair that seemed to call me set. In a corner of the room, near the table, a fireplace was burning. The fire danced a waltz light and weightless, accompanied by the crackling sound of wood flowing like a calm melody. I approached and sat at the table. It was cluttered with a pile of letters, almost all sealed. Some were covered in dust, others looked freshly written. There were so many, I couldn't understand where to start, all addressed to me, as if waiting for the decision I would make. I ran my finger over the nearest envelope. It had no sender or recipient, only a seal resembling a clock without hands. Strange, I've never seen seals like these before, I whispered to myself. I flipped through the envelopes, one after another, trying to understand what I needed to do. My mind was a chaos of thoughts, ones I couldn't put together. And then an idea struck me. I sprang up from the chair, which creaked loudly as its old legs scraped the wooden floor, so much so that even the rhythm of the fire flickering nearby seemed to change. I grabbed all the envelopes into a pile and shouted, "What if I burn it all to ashes here? Will it end then? Would this meaningless game be over? Tell me. I will get out of here, right, Mari?" Just as I grabbed the envelopes, I heard her voice from backstage. "Don't do this, Reid." I stopped. I threw the envelopes down and pressed my hands onto the table. I closed my eyes and exhaled deeply. "What am I doing wrong? Or rather, what did I do wrong? What am I doing here now?" I whispered. From behind the wings, Kayan's angry voice was barely audible. "Mari, don't interfere. You promised me." "I want to help him. He deserves it." "It's not for you to decide who deserves what," his angry voice echoed faintly. "Don't do anything foolish. You don't know how this help will affect him or us." I looked down at the table. The envelopes were scattered, some on the table, some under it, and one was resting on my lap. Taking that one, I began to open it. My hands trembled and sweated. My heart was pounding out of my chest. It felt like my body knew what was inside, but not my mind. I unfolded it slowly, staring into every word. The handwriting was so familiar. I started reading aloud. My voice trembled as if the words were spoken through me by someone long gone but left themselves between these lines. I don't know if you will read this letter or not, but if you do, it means there is still hope that you will forgive me and understand. I opened letter after letter at random, as if tearing pages from someone's diary. I started reading from any line, but those lines struck me like arrows. I never told you out loud that I loved you, but I always said it in my mind. I loved you and Mom more than life itself. Forgive me, son. I didn't protect Mom. Each open letter was a wound, every word a word of remorse. I couldn't hold back. The tears I had carried inside for so long burst out without permission. They fell onto the yellow paper, smudging the letters as if trying to erase these confessions. I bent over the table and wept bitterly, for the first time in a long while. The curtains began closing, the faceless hall applauded, everything disappeared, only I remained. From the darkness of the wings, I heard a faint whisper of an argument between Kyan and Mari. He has the right to know, he must forgive, this will change everything. Don't stick your nose where it's not wanted. I've decided I'd always listen to you. But not this time. I know what I'm doing. This is the right thing, Kyan. Please, I beg you, give him a chance. Do what you want. I'm not going to take part in this. I heard Kyan leave. I stepped down from the stage to Mari. She looked at me with pity, but also hope. Do you really want to know who we are? What you're doing here? Do you feel ready? Of course, I've been waiting for this for a long time. Sit down. We sat on the floor. Mari hesitated a little but began to tell me from the beginning who they were. Kyan is my brother. We grew up behind the scenes. The theater was our home. Even before we learned to speak, we lived here. Between costumes and performances, we lived for the stage. We lived for the roles. This place was all we had. After our parents died, the theater became our inheritance. They were great actors. People came to see their performances. They were incredible. My brother and I decided to continue their work in memory of our parents. But that decision became our curse. Mari's voice trembled. For the first time, I saw her like this. Different, real. Continue, Mari. She turned away, staring deep into the stage, as if recalling everything that had happened back then. One evening, there was a sold-out show. All the tickets were sold. The audience laughed and applauded. Kyan and I stood backstage. It was supposed to be one of our best performances. I was the happiest. I believed our parents were proud of us. But suddenly we smelled smoke, at first barely noticeable. We thought we imagined it. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, fire. The theater was old. It caught fire like a match. We still don't know who or why set the theater on fire, but everything burned to the ground. The stage, the audience, the actors. The fire took them all. Everyone except us. You survived? No, we just never left. Why? I don't know. The theater holds us, or maybe we hold on to it. I don't know. But we stay here between worlds. Always we became guides. We meet here those who ended their own lives, those who didn't finish their role. And they all end up here? Almost all. We help them finish their roles. We help them say what they didn't manage to say, fix their mistakes, sins, and fears. There is no line here, only the truth that sounds from the stage. And the faceless audience, who are they? They are those who have not atoned for their guilt, who have not forgiven, have not let go. The hall never applauded for them. They stay here forever, waiting for someone else's place. And me, am I dead? Why isn't my play just one? It's different with you. You are not dead yet, Oliver. Your performance is not over. Sometimes, and very rarely, people like you come here. People like what? Those who still have a chance, those who can still be brought back. But not everyone succeeds. Some don't want to return and some can't. But You deserve it. You can do it. I believe, she said, putting her hand on my shoulder. Remember, Oliver, in every play, your life, your pain. But before you return, you have to finish, to the end, all your scenes, even the most painful ones. Accept yourself, appreciate yourself, understand that you are worthy. Because only then will you be able to leave this theater alive. And if not, you either move on if the hall applauds, or you remain forever a spectator. That depends only on you, Oliver. Only you know how many acts you need to play. But it's late now, the day has been long. You're probably tired. Go to sleep. She rose from the floor, looked at me as if she wanted to say more but decided to stay silent, then disappeared into the darkness of the long corridors, leaving behind the fading click of heels on the wooden floor. I remained sitting alone. The theater grew quiet again, but not for long. I looked at the stage there. In the dim spotlight, figures moved. Someone ran, someone cried, someone screamed, someone embraced passionately. They were all playing their last roles, opening their hearts to the faceless, not noticing me. Actors changed, roles and scenes changed. It all happened so fast, as if someone was rewinding a film. Some faceless applauded, and some, unfortunately, did not. I sat backstage on the floor in the shadow of the stage, like a spectator at a play. Each scene, each act a part of someone's life, and I was like spying on them. My mind was full of thoughts. I tried to remember why I was here, why I jumped, who I am in my own life's play, just an actor following the script. Maybe I am the director of my own life, or maybe just a shadow among shadows. And at that moment, my heart remembered everything, every play I had performed on this stage. I looked at it all in a completely different way. I remembered, and for the first time, I didn't turn away from myself. I remembered how I shouted and cried into my pillow after my parents' fights, how I drew pictures to cheer my mother up when she cried in the kitchen, how I pretended not to understand why my father was packing his suitcases, how I blamed myself for everything, sincerely, childishly. But then understanding came to me. I jumped up from the floor and shouted at the top of my lungs. I couldn't change their lives. I couldn't sew up the cracks that ran through their hearts. I was just a child, a little boy who wanted to have a happy family. I am not the fault, not the reason for the divorce. I'm just part of their story, a witness, not the author. I quickly headed to the dressing room. Inside me, feelings of fatigue and exhilaration were fighting because I had finally realized everything, and with that truth, it became easier for me to breathe. Approaching the dressing room, I opened the door. I entered and closed it completely behind me, not leaving a single crack. With the click of the lock, I understood one more thing. I am not talented. I have always been an actor, a good actor. I could play great roles, say great words. But despair changed my life, made me play not myself, play someone who didn't believe in any of his lines, someone who didn't believe in himself. I fell into the chair and didn't even realize when I fell asleep. Morning came. I woke up with the understanding that today I would change my life. The hall would applaud me, and I would return to life. Although at the same time, it felt a little sad. I had already gotten used to this theater kind no longer annoyed me. After Mari's story, I saw him from a different side. And Mari, that girl, is unreal. She is kind, sincere, and open. She has an amazing appearance. I like her. It's a pity I can't take her with me. My last act could begin any moment, I whispered to myself. I looked around the dressing room, which had been my home, shelter, and hiding place these days. For the last time, I touch the things that used to annoy me. I hated everything here, but now, somehow, looking at them, I feel sad. This place changed me, changed my thoughts, my attitude toward life. Even the faceless photos gained meaning. I left the dressing room and slowly walked down the corridors, examining the portraits on the walls. They used to look at me with anger, but now it's as if they're saying goodbye. I ran my hand along the wall, also saying goodbye to this place. I won't come back here again. I stopped abruptly. I needed to find Mari. I had to say goodbye. I couldn't disappear without seeing her one last time. I wandered through the corridors, every turn a labyrinth in search of Mari. I was afraid I wouldn't make it, that they would call me to the performance and it would all be over. I opened every door, but she was nowhere to be found. Time was flying, every minute felt like a second slipping away. And then finally, a door was ajar. I felt she was there. I approached the door, my heart tightened and my hands grew sweaty. Strange feelings are swirling inside me. Something's not right. I opened the door. She was sitting on the floor, the light falling on her face highlighted her beauty and added an unreal charm to her image. She was staring at the wall, but her gaze was so piercing it seemed to pass right through it. She sat there, lost in thought. Mari, I finally found you. She slowly turned her gaze to me without hurry and said, Oliver, what are you doing here? Today feels like my last play. I can feel it. I'm happy for you, Oliver. You deserve a second chance. I sat down beside her, and we sat there again, just like when she first shared her story with me. What will you do when you come back? I'm going to change my life. Do you think I'll forget this place? I don't know, she whispered, shrugging her shoulders. If you had a chance to leave with me, would you go? Nonsense, the exit is closed for me. But if you could leave, what would you do? I don't even want to think about it, she said, turning her head away. I'm a prisoner of this theater. No, you're at Seoul, Mari. Kai entered the room, this time looking less angry than usual. He came up, offered his hand to Mari, looked at me, and said, Let's go. The story is almost over. Just a little more and you'll be free. Don't waste the chance this theater and Mari have given you. I smiled but said nothing in reply, and we went. We walked together to the stage, through long narrow corridors, past doors and portraits, walking together to decide my fate, me and my guides. I tried to memorize every detail of the theater, but more than anything, I wanted to remember Molly, her facial features, her gaze, her hair. I wanted all to stay in my memory forever. And there it was, the stage before me, dark and cold. It was waiting for me. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and exhaled sharply. My heart was like a drum. My breath faltered. I stood there, realizing the story of mine was coming to an end. And it seemed my dream had come true. I was leaving this place. I knew the way out, but I couldn't take a single step forward. Mari approached me, took my hand, and whispered, I will remember you, Oliver, as long as I'm tied to this theater. I'm glad I have known you. Goodbye. She kissed me on the cheek so gently, like the touch of a butterfly. It's your time. Go! He offered me his hand and stepped back. I turned around, looked at them one last time, smiled, and said, Goodbye. I'm glad I met you. I stepped onto the stage, the wings slowly opened, and everything began, one last time. I was on the stage. The light gradually pushed back the darkness, round me mirrors. Wherever I looked, only them and me. I moved closer, but didn't see my reflection in any of them. I tried to examine each mirror and find a clue. Strange, what did these mirrors mean? I muttered to myself. Why are they here? I whispered. I paced in circles, looked at each one, thought about what it could mean, and why mirrors specifically, but the answer never came. Hey, what does this mean? What am I supposed to do? I shouted. Suddenly, in one of the mirrors, I noticed strange changes, as if something flashed inside it. I cautiously approached closer. Finally, the mirror became real. It showed my reflection. I stood still, staring at myself in the mirror, examining the features of my face, the dark circles under my eyes, the tousled hair. I had lost weight, or maybe it just seemed so. I raised my hand to my reflection. Stop, no. This isn't my reflection. I started waving my hands, making faces, sticking out my tongue, spinning around, but nothing in the reflection. There was me, but at the same time not me. Suddenly, the spotlight above each mirror lit up, and in every one my reflection, the reflection itself, not me. They stared motionless, never looking away from me. Dozens of my figures, but I found no self in any of them. Suddenly, looking into one of them, I noticed a forced smile, as if whoever was on the other side of the mirror was mocking me. Do you want to tell me something? I said, staring into the reflection. What does that crooked smile of yours mean? Suddenly, all the reflections turned angry and contemptuous. They radiated aggression and malice. And even knowing what was happening here, knowing this theater, having already been through more than one play right here on this stage, I was scared. This environment is crushing me. Each of these silhouettes fills me with terror. They stare at me, they smile, and there's no way to hide from them. They devour me with their gaze, and if not for the glass between us, they would destroy me, consume me, and I would cease to exist. Stop! Don't look at me like that. What do you want from me? I can't understand what I'm supposed to do. How do I finish this damn play? And then like thunder on a clear day, my voice sounded, but I remained silent. One reflection in the mirror spoke to me. You're unworthy to leave this place. What? I shouted back at it. The mirrors seemed to come alive. They shouted at me one after another, each delivering its verdict. You are talentless. You are responsible for your mother's death. Your roles are failures. You lived in vain. You have no purpose in life. Your father left because of you. If not for you, they wouldn't have broken up. You are undeserving of love. Nobody needs you. You are not worthy to live. You did the right thing by jumping. Your place is among the faceless. I fell to my knees, covered my ears with my hands, and screamed with all my might. Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Suddenly, the spotlight went out. The reflections disappeared. I was left alone, in complete darkness and silence, hearing only the pounding of my heart. Panic overwhelmed me. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My chest was tight, my hands trembled. I couldn't control my emotions. I closed my eyes and breathed slowly and deeply. I tried to recall good memories, just to calm down somehow. In my mind, I painted the image of Mari, her eyes, her hair, her smile, the intonation she used when she spoke a kiss. I replayed her words in my head. You deserve a second chance. You are different. My heart began to slow down. I inhaled deeply and exhaled. I repeated it until I was completely calm. Rising to my feet, I took one more deep breath and shouted with all my strength. No, I am worthy of a second chance. My shout echoed throughout the hall. Above one of the mirrors, a spotlight suddenly lit up. I walked decisively toward the light, my steps confident. I stopped right in front of it, clenching my fists, but in a moment, in the mirror like on a movie screen, my life. In the reflection, I'm in the theater, preparing for an audition for the lead role, holding the script in my hands. I'm insanely nervous. On stage, I forgot my lines after the performance. The director rejects me. I remember that moment. Those were my first auditions, but I didn't fail because I was talentless. It was because fear defeated me. I couldn't manage my emotions. But I am a good actor, I shouted into the mirror. And then, red slides from my life one by one. My failures flickered. Each failure stabbed me like a knife in the very heart, just as painfully as it did back then, when it happened. But this time, I accepted those failures, accepted that this is my experience. Nobody is perfect, everyone has their ups and downs, everyone has their own path. Frame by frame. My seriously ill mother dying in a hospital bed, I blame myself. No, it's not my fault, it's her fate. I couldn't change anything. I shouted back at that damn mirror. My father left. I stand by the door and watch him walk away. I blame myself. I think I was a bad son. I think I don't deserve to have a father. No, I deserve him. I was a good son. It was simply my father's choice to leave and leave me alone. I confess my love to a girl, but in response I hear that it's not mutual, that I'm just a friend, that she has no feelings for me. It was a slap to my feelings. At that moment, I didn't want to live. She was simply not the one for me, I whispered to myself. I can still change my life. I will play my big roles. I will love and I will be loved back sincerely, without falseness. I will travel, I will see the world just like I dreamed as a child. I will have a family, children. I will teach them to ride a bike and to fish. I will live my life so that I am never lonely, because I will have my family and friends. And most importantly, I will have myself different, true. The light went out, but the spotlight lit up over another mirror. I slowly approached it. In the reflection again, my image stared at me intently and spoke in a harsh voice. And what will you say now? In the reflection, there is a white room lit by a large window covered with sheer curtains. Flower pots stand on the windowsill. In the corner near the window a bed, and next to it on the tables many monitors. In the hospital bed, a person is connected to the monitors. Wearing an oxygen mask, I look into the image and freeze a lump in my throat. Tears well up in my eyes, and my hands tremble, betraying me. So, do you recognize me? That's me. Look, who needs you? And like a fast-forward rewind, the reflection showed my stay in the hospital. Do you see anyone? No, I don't. No one came into my hospital room except the medical staff. Not a single familiar face came to visit me. Not a single familiar voice, not a single conversation directed at me. Only me and the sounds of the machines monitoring me. I am needed by no one. I was lonely while alive. And I am lonely in this coma.